Hey everybody, so today I am here to talk to you guys all about our transition from cribs to toddler beds, more specifically floor beds. For some background information in case you're new to my channel or my videos, I have a 4-year-old daughter Sophie, and I also have a 2-year, 9-month-old daughter Remy. And we have transitioned both of them to floor beds. Remy was the most recent. She was just a few months ago, I think around October time, maybe a little bit before that, I can't remember specifically, but I've been wanting to make this video for a really long time, but now that we had just recently moved Remy into a floor bed, I feel kind of refreshed on the subject. I've also been getting a lot of comments here on YouTube and also messages over on Instagram about how we handle that. People are very curious about it, so I just felt like it was a good time to make this video finally. So I don't actually have any notes. This isn't going to be a super structured video like most of my sit downs are. I just wanted to share my experience, what worked, what didn't work, the kind of mindset we had behind everything. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started with some background information. So basically both the girls were in their own rooms in cribs before we did any of this. Now the whole own room, sleeping by themselves, whether it's in a crib or whatever it might be, that's something that is completely different from this video. You know, that kind of sleeping arrangement is something that's, you know, personal to your own parenting style. But my girls, both at 9 months old, were ready to sleep in their own room, and they both took to it very well. So from the time they were 9 months old until they were moved into toddler beds, they had been sleeping in a crib in their own room, doing pretty well. And with both girls, I will say the decision to move them into toddler beds was because they were finally escaping the crib. You know, there was never any rush from my husband and I. There was never any need, honestly, to switch the girls out of the cribs. So our decision to make that switch was just purely based out of safety reasons and, you know, not wanting the crib to tip or anything like that. With that being said, Sophie got transitioned into a toddler bed at 1.5 years old. Now with Remy, she was 2.5 when she started doing this, and Remy, out of both my girls, is definitely the better sleeper. Now, they're both great. They both sleep through the night. They both sleep in their own rooms, everything like that. Very fortunate for that. But with Remy, she very much likes to sleep. You know, when we lay her down to go to sleep at night, she's ready to go to bed. She really doesn't like to be read to or anything special. She wants to say goodnight. She wants to go to bed. She's been like that since she was a baby. Now, with her sister, Sophie takes a little bit more convincing. You know, she's more of like, I feel like a normal toddler, where, you know, bedtime isn't the most fun thing ever. But with Remy, if she is laying down in her bed, it is to sleep. So when she started at 2.5 getting out of the crib, and both times with both girls, I just felt like they were maybe searching for also a little bit more independence. You know, obviously they're getting so curious about what's on the other side of the crib that they're wanting to crawl out of it. So with that being said, we transitioned both of them to toddler beds. Now the decision to do floor beds, that was a little bit more of like a personal research and talk between my husband and I. Around the time that we felt like Sophie was needing to be moved into a toddler bed was the same time that I had discovered Montessori and all its teachings, and it had really interested me. And I am no expert in Montessori. You know, I'm not a teacher. I'm not very fluent in it. I've never read any of the books or anything like that. I'm just a mom who has access to the internet and can do research when it suits her. The most basic message that I took away from the research I had done at that time about Montessori was about the respect that you're supposed to show your children. It was about the independence you're supposed to encourage and allow them to have, and also encouraging them to take in their surroundings and really engage with them. And with that, they really promote a floor bed kind of scenario in the bedroom because it does create such independence, and I really liked that idea. I felt like it was going to be a really good fit for Sophie in particular because, like I said, I felt like Sophie was a lot more curious about her surroundings, whereas Remy was just, I don't know, a lot more timid in that sense. Like, she was curious, but not nearly so much as her sister was. And I felt like it was just going to be the best. Now, I will say, I never went into the floor bed situation or moving either of my kids into toddler beds thinking that they needed to stay in bed the whole time. And I know that some people's problem with the floor bed aspect is, well, how do you get them to stay in bed? The answer is you're kind of not supposed to. You know, they're supposed to engage in their surroundings. They're supposed to get up, you know, see what their bedroom is like after, you know, you lay them down and you leave their room. And number one, it'll wear off, you know, like At this point, with Sophie now being 4 years old and she's been in a floor bed since a year and a half, she does not really explore anymore. She knows her room. She's comfortable with it. It also just kind of goes against what the floor bed is about. It's supposed to encourage that independence of, go figure it out and you can come back and you can sleep. This is all about their space and learning to embrace it. But we did enforce you have to go to bed at a good time kind of thing. So we made sure she understood that she wasn't in there to play. She was in there to go to sleep at night. Now, when she wakes up in the morning, if she wants to play, that's perfectly fine. But at night we are trying to go to sleep so we have energy for school the next morning, stuff like that. So we didn't mind if she got out of bed, but it was more about being asleep by a certain time. That's one of the questions I get a lot, is how I kept her in bed. And it's just a simple answer of I didn't try to do that. Honestly, it would have drove me crazy, but that's also what the floor bed is supposed to be about. And another big question I always got was how I kept her from rolling out of bed. And again, I did not. Now, some people will stick a pool noodle underneath the sheets, which will help your child from not rolling off. There's other people who just stick the guards, like the regular bedside kind of guards for your kid. They'll stick those underneath the mattress, things like that. And you could do all those things, but honestly, I just figured it was something that would come with time. So that's kind of the approach we took. She rolled off her bed, I think, for like the first year. She would always be like half on, half off. Maybe she'd be asleep on the floor, which she never cared about. She never once complained about. And we just kind of let her learn. And now at 4 years old, she stays on her bed just fine. She doesn't roll off at all. And I think that's very much dependent on the child, because I will say, we have a monitor in both their rooms, and Remy never really rolls off her bed, even being super young. It might just all be about how much her child moves at night, and I know Sophie moves quite a bit. The transition with Sophie into a toddler bed worked really well. Like I said, I did feel like that was going to be the best fit for her. I felt like it was something she could really embrace. It just felt like a very good fit for her personality. And it was, there were some nights that we had to remind her that we're not playing, it's bedtime now. She was kind of staying up too late. It also helped to mess around with the nap schedule as well. And over time, now that she is 4 years old, she gets up in the middle of the night and maybe she'll get a book or maybe she'll get a stuffed animal over on the shelf, but she comes back to bed and she does what she wants within the freedom of her own room, but she is sleeping at a good time, making sure that she's going to bed when she should be. And also in the morning, she can get up and she can play and do whatever she likes in her room. And it just was a really good fit for her. We felt like it went really well. And with Remy, I would say it went just as smooth. Like I said, Remy was around 2.5 when she started crawling out of the crib, so an entire year later than Sophie. But like I said, I just don't think Remy was ever that curious because she liked sleeping so much. And with her, she was very much excited. I was more scared that she was going to be kind of intimidated by the idea, because Remy does tend to be a little fearful of things, but she very much liked the idea of it. She does spend a lot of time in her sister's room, her big sister. So she knows Sophie has a floor bed and she really liked it. And I could tell that, maybe this would encourage her to embrace it as well. And it did, because she kept saying that she was a big girl like Sophie and she really liked it. So it went really well. And honestly, it was no different than the crib aspect. Remy wanted to go to sleep right as we're laying her down. No muss, no fuss with her. I will say that over the past few months, because like I said, I do believe we started that around October time. Over the past few months, she has realized she can get out of bed. She can go get things she wants, brings them back to bed, goes to sleep. And I love that. I love that they can move around their own room, because that is their space. I want their bedrooms to be whatever they want it to be. And knowing that she's now got the confidence of, well, if I want this stuffed animal to go to sleep with and it's over on the shelf, I can go get it. And I can hear her little pitter pattering over to the bookshelf, and then she'll run right back and she'll get into bed. And it went really well. It's still going really well. And I will say, I think the only thing that we struggled with was both girls had dressers in their rooms when they transitioned into toddler beds, and pulling stuff out of drawers was definitely something I think Honestly, the only annoying part of the whole thing was because they had never had access to their dresser unsupervised before, and now that they did, they just ripped everything out. But after a few times, and after making them put it back a few times, they realized that if I'm going to make this mess, I'm going to clean it up, so they don't do it anymore, which is really great. But that, you know, basically sums up our transition to toddler beds. I think it went so smoothly because our girls were already sleeping through the night. They were pretty well adjusted as far as like sleeping routines went, but also because I don't think we had unrealistic expectations. You know, if you go into, you know, wanting to do a floor bed with your toddler and they're getting out all the time and that's not something that you want, I don't think a floor bed would be the best decision, because you know, that's what it's supposed to encourage, is that kind of independence to roam about their room. So as long as you don't have unrealistic expectations for the situation you're trying to set up, I think it's going to go pretty smoothly. Now, there are late nights and there are mishaps along the way, but they're very few and minor, and honestly, I can't even remember them with Sophie. We've had a few things here and there with Remy, but nothing big. Like I said, the dresser thing got to be a little annoying, but like I said, once the kids realize that the mess they make is going to be the mess they clean up, they kind of stopped it. And that's another thing that I also started implementing around the time of the floor bed situation, is that they clean their own rooms. I mean, mom goes in when they're distracted and they're not watching me, and I'll go in and I'll tidy it up a little bit more, but for the most part the kids pick up their own rooms, so they don't even really make that much of a mess in them because they know that they're going to be the ones to clean it up. I recommend a floor bed to almost anybody, honestly. Like I said, if you have different expectations for your kids at bedtime, it might not be the best fit, but for people who are fine with them getting out of bed, kind of exploring around and stuff like that, and you know, even if they're into Montessori, not into Montessori, you know, I think it can be a really great fit. And I will say that I feel like the floor bed will help transition into bigger beds, or, you know, an actual bed frame later, because when we move, we do plan on moving the girls into a room together. They'll have a bunk bed where Remy will still have a floor bed, so that won't change, but Sophie will be in the top bunk, and that's obviously different than a floor bed. But because of that buffer between a crib and a bunk bed, I feel like it's going to help a lot, and it's been a really good fit for our family. It's been a good fit for our kids, and as parents, we really loved it as well. And it can be as complicated or as uncomplicated as you would like it to be. You know, you could do it as simple as throwing your crib mattress on the floor. You want to make sure you're taking care of it though. You want to make sure that your kids aren't going to bed with food or water, otherwise, you know, things can get messy and gross and underneath there and whatever. But you know, make sure that you're cleaning the mattress both sides, which I still like using the toddler mattresses because they're waterproof, or at least the ones that we bought are, and I can wipe them down with Clorox wipes when I flip the mattress quite often. I'm obviously changing the sheets and stuff like that, sweeping underneath there. My kids don't eat or drink in their room, so I know nothing's happening under there, but you just want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on it, especially if you got a real mattress that's not waterproof. You know, it could get humid in there, things could start to grow underneath, stuff like that. And with that, I will say, I know some people use platforms or something to elevate the mattress so it does have a bit of air, but with our waterproof mattress, it's not really necessary, you know. And you can also do things to make it more comfy. Like with both the girls, we bought them memory foam padding inserts that basically go on top of the crib mattress underneath the sheets, because I know that those toddler crib mattresses aren't the most comfortable things ever. So the memory foam really does make it comfortable for them. Bought it right off of Amazon. They're pretty cheap. You can still give them bedding. You can still, you know, do whatever you want. It can still be very much your own thing. You can play around with it. I know some people use like trundles to contain their mattress. I know some people get some IKEA frames and then just shave off the legs of them. Like I said, there's endless options to do a floor bed, but you know, it could be as basic as using the mattress you already have, making sure you're taking care of it, and it's really simple. I will say that some family members are going to be confused if they come over to your house and they're like, why don't your kids have beds? Because it's not very conventional. I do get questions about it quite often if people are in my house, but I don't know, my kids love it, and I honestly, it's gonna break my heart when they're both not in floor beds one day, because I think it just fits them so well in their personalities. But that is everything to do with us transitioning from crib into toddler bed slash floor beds. If I missed anything, or if you have more questions, leave them down in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching.